Good morning and good afternoon to all of our attendees. Thank you for joining today's Family Office Network's webinar series, The Opportunity Zone for Creativity. The Outlook Company is a Baltimore-based new media company creating intellectual property by deploying technology for storytelling and pop culture content for the youth market in film, TV, and gaming. Joining us today is Outlook's CEO, Trevor Pryce, a retired NFL player turned writer, producer, and creator for Disney and Netflix. The New York Times will be sharing the details of his Opportunity Zone investment that concurrently provides investor tax efficiency and estate planning benefits. At the end of today's presentation, we will have plenty of time for Q&A, and we encourage your questions. Please use your questions chat option on the right side of your screen to send over any questions you have so we can answer them accordingly. And with that said, Trevor, I will let you get started.
Hello, everyone. I appreciate you guys taking time out of your day to take a look at my company. Like Lindsay said, we are a media company, independent media company, more than we are anything else. And a media company owns and operates IP. So this is my presentation, and I'm going to go through it very quickly and leave some time for questions. But the Outlook Company is a Baltimore Opportunity Zone-based new media company that specializes in technology-driven youth IP storytelling and pop culture content. We are no different than a Disney, than a Time Warner, all those companies that lean into the Marvel, the Avengers, and DC, that kind of thing. We chase those things because we're good at it. So this is our company, and the way kind of this stuff works is as a media company, you have to have not just content but capability. So that's why we started our studio here in Baltimore. So as you can see, if you can see my mouse, this is our 3D space that's downstairs. This is where I'm currently sitting. This is my office. This is our 2D space. This is our building in East Baltimore. And I think we've created a culture that lends itself to creativity because of, not being in LA or New York and in those type of places is a blessing and a curse. But we're trying to make it as creative as possible. And doing that, we've gotten the best work out of the people that work here. So why Baltimore, right? Right now in our building, we have about 15,000 square feet and we have 53 employees. Between 2D and 3D artists, rendering, characters, producers, supervisors. We find Baltimore to be a very artistic place, right? There's an art school here, MICA, Maryland Institute of College of Art, but also with the art school is a technology base. And what we decided to do is say, with the art and technology, if we're able to merge those two things, we'll be able to make our content faster, cheaper, and the cost of living is low. So that becomes one of those things that's an advantage for us. The leadership of the company, I am the CEO and president of the company. I created Outlook in 2006 as a record company at first. We found our way into film because I found my way into writing, and it's gone really, really well and beyond according to plan. You guys are going to hear about my IP that's on Netflix, Kalupari, and that's our big one right now, and that's the one we're leaning into the most. So the IP and culture content business, right now it's never been bigger, it's never been more valuable, and it kind of never will be more valuable. Just in the middle right here, Viacom CBS launched a new kids content division. Viacom CBS owns Nickelodeon. Why are they launching a second kids content division? Because there's not enough of it. The difference between now and then is audiences watch everything one time. The trick is to grab a very big audience. But once they watch it once, it's like, what else do you have? What else do you have? What else do you have? And there's this insatiable nature to devour content. And I'm sure a lot of you guys on here know that as you watch anything on Netflix or Paramount Plus or Warner one time, there's no need to watch it twice because there's something else, trying to keep up. So our previous success as a media company has been the Kalupari IP. So I wrote the Kalupari books between 2006 and 2008, and this is the book trilogy down here. One of the Netflix executives, his son read it, so they contacted us, myself and my partners, and we wound up making 2 seasons of the show for Netflix. The first one was called An Army of Frogs. The subsequent follow-up series, which was renewed based on data, was called Kalupari Dreamwalker. This is some of the previous things we've done. Collider called it the best animated TV series on Netflix right now. This was March 5th of last year. We've done licensing. This is an Under Armour license. Under Armour is based here in Baltimore, and I was an athlete, so it was very easy to talk to them. But we did an Under Armour licensing deal that was very, very successful. All this stuff sold out. Did a small Mattel toy deal through Amazon. All that stuff sold out. We got an Emmy nomination for Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker. He was part of the voice cast. Funny enough, he did not win. And it was pretty much in the cards he was going to win for Kalapari, and he didn't. So we're pretty upset about it. But we will make it up to him. But that's the show. So, you know, the things that I'm going to talk about aren't pie in the sky or not we can do, we might do. No, we have done, and we're doing more of it. So the reason why Kalapari is the lead IP that we're working on as a media company is because we can exploit it from one age to the next. As you see here, our Kalapari preschool show, which there is 30 seconds of, is called Kalapari Untrained, and it's about these 3 young animals, this frog and 2 lizards, who are training to be the next version of what this guy is over here. This is the Scorpion Lord Marmu. If you've gotten the link from Lindsay and the team, you've seen him move and walk through the desert and basically get a sandstorm. But the thing you have to do to exploit it, if you're a media company and not an animation studio, you have to go through all these buckets, from film, TV, up to gaming, and you have to go from preschool over to high school. Now, when you do that, you find these places in between: costumes, print, consumer products, live events. This is the Marvel, Disney, DC, Time Warner, Minions and Despicable Me way of building a franchise. You find your IP, and if you own the IP, which I do own the IP, you find as many ways to exploit as possible without spending too much money. Because the most important thing, you have to tell the story. If you tell the story correctly, you will wind up where you need to be. And we're doing that now based in Baltimore. Because Kalapari was a book series first, we've gotten to publishing and printing. So these are the books that were printed by Abrams. However, I started a book company of my own, Outlook Words and Arts, and we started making our own Kalapari books. We have a distribution deal through Diamond Comics, and the comics are actually doing pretty good. The publishing business is very, very hard, but what it is, it's a touch point. It's not really a business to get wealthy in or to make a lot of profit, because you have to put out a lot of material, and that material is very expensive. What it is impression, and this business is about impression, right? The more impressions you have, the more likely you are to sell the thing that has the most upside, which is your movies and TV shows. But we are doing print and publishing, but in a very small scale, right? If we're able to put out 2 books a year, that is more than enough. And that's the way we think about it from a publishing standpoint, because those stories have to be written, and I take story very seriously in the sense that you can't just put something out to put something out, right? So what are we doing as a company, and why are we doing it? An executive at Nickelodeon called me the Tyler Perry of animation, and I went, I don't know what that means yet, but I'm going to find out. Tyler Perry Studio is worth about $1 billion, and the reason it is worth that kind of money is because he owns everything. It is ownership, and it's not just ownership of the IP. He owns the capability of how the IP is made, where his studio is in Atlanta, the things that he does as far as the deals he makes, where he still owns the master rights of everything. And that's why he's so valuable. At one point, Tyler Perry couldn't get anybody to answer his calls. Now he answers nobody's calls, and they've all called. I know for a fact Viacom is trying to buy his company. He doesn't want to sell it. But he has given me the roadmap of how to do this correctly. Now, because we are in Baltimore and the price of living is lower, we are the only business like ours for 500 square miles. The next one of us is in St. Louis, New York, and Atlanta. So this big hole in the middle, it is just us. It is just us and a few video game companies. However, because Tyler Perry has showed us that it is possible to own a studio, a physical studio, not a studio in name only, but actual land, that's what we're doing. The investment in this business has gone up tenfold around the world, especially the last year with COVID. Lionsgate is building a big thing in New York. Africa seems to be the next animation scene because of Netflix. The $1 billion they spent in New Mexico. One of my good friends runs this company, Titmouse. They're now releasing 90,000 square feet. There's opportunity for content and young content, not kids content, but young pop culture content has never been greater, and it'll be greater next year than it even is now. So the two opportunities that we have as a company that we decided to do, we are trying to raise money for the operating company Outlook. But because we are in an opportunity zone and we've taken an opportunity zone money, we were asked to put up our own opportunity zone fund. So Outlook Company Opportunity Zone is a different opportunity, and the two do tie together, and I'll explain how. So let's go to talk about Outlook Company. We're raising $12 million in two tranches. $8 million goes towards the first independent productions. The second $4 million is the building out the actual capability, the $4 million studio. So as you can see, the book trilogy came out in 2014, Netflix season 1, 2016, Netflix season 2, and now we're recapitalizing the studio and going at it fully independent, without Netflix, without anybody else, and we'll distribute ourselves to whoever we think gives us the best deal, the best reach in the marketplace. The reason why Kalapari, because this is a 4-quadrant IP. The 4 quadrants are under 25 female, under 25 male, over 25 female, over 25 male. And as we keep expanding the IP, and here's the thing, all these are real. These are not ideas. There's 3 minutes of Kalapari Dawns of Hiding Wars. There's 3 minutes of Warflower. There's 4 minutes of this. There's 3 minutes of that. We are doing all these things, and in the middle is a live-action reboot of Kalapari, which I'll talk about. Kalapari, we found out that it was actually very popular. We believe it's been watched millions of times because the weekend that it came out, the second season in 2018, it was the 13th most watched thing on Netflix around the world. Now, when you're 13, Marvel's The Avengers is number 30. However, this is the truth. Everything in Netflix, everything in streaming goes up and it comes down. So we saw Marvel's Avengers as we were going up, and we saw them as we were coming down. But that's just the nature of the beast. But that tells me that there's an appetite for it. This is not my television. This is television in our studio. For some reason, one day we turned on Netflix and season 2 was popular on Netflix, next to Incredibles 2, and we don't know why. That's just the nature of what streaming is. It's not a business that I really love. So the 4 projects we are working on independently for the $8 million are the Kalapari feature film live action reboot. Kalapari was a cartoon, a 2D cartoon. This looks photoreal, what we're making downstairs. We're making another 2D feature film that's based on the Netflix series, which we're going to sell by ourselves. We're also making this show, Benny Blueprints. It's a preschool show that I did not create. It's a preschool show I signed. And as a media company, a Tyler Perry, Disney-like media company, you have to sign things. I can't create it all, or else it becomes, Trevor Pryce company, and that's not what we're trying to build. And lastly, we're making a VR game. We're likely making this for Sony. Sony PlayStation is very interested in Kalapari Heritage VR, and our game has been flagged for partnership. Right now, we're still going about it as if we're funding it, but we think they're going to fund it. So this is how the $8 million runs out. We have $4.8 million for the live action reboot, $1.3 million for the 2D feature film, $500K for the VR game, $1.16 million for Benny for the preschool show. These are the distributors and partners we're talking with ongoing right now. This one, the VR game seems to be pretty real. This was a conversation yesterday. The movie looks like that, so they're into it. So those things we're constantly pitching distribution, not funding. We're pitching distribution, and those conversations are easier to have when everything's finished. So the production of the movie looks like this. This is what our live action movie looks like. I didn't want to play it on here because it doesn't work very well streaming it to you guys, but this is what our movie looks like, and it looks very real, and it will reset the way these films are made. Our 2D feature film looks like this. We are in production now. Again, there's 52 people that work here, so we're in production. Our preschool show looks like this. There's a pilot for it, and our VR game looks like this. All of these things I'm very much willing to share. If in fact you do have a VR headset and have a development kit, we'll send you the VR game so you can actually play it. But the VR game is based on a Kalapari character that has a crossbow, and she runs around and shoots lizards coming at her. It's pretty neat. The second part of our raise, the $4 million Outlook Studios, because again, if you have capability, what you need next is content, you need capability. Our company is technology based. So the latest in motion capture, the latest in facial recognition, the latest in ray tracing, Unreal Engine, those type of things are where we live because we cannot find 400 animators to work on a DreamWorks movie. 400 animators don't exist in this part of the world. However, we can find 50. And if you have 50, if you're able to put your actors in a motion capture suit and you see them look like frogs on the camera, you don't need the 400 animators. So we've taken that route and we are fully invested in it. These two pictures, this is one actor playing two different characters. He's playing the Scorpion Lord. He's also playing Benny Blueprints. And those two characters walk in the same exact way. We are the only company around here doing this. We're the only companies on the East Coast doing it. This is crowd simulation. This is facial recognition. The company that makes the facial recognition software and cameras wants to use us in their marketing. And I was like, well, nobody knows who we are. And she said, you'd be surprised how many people do know who you are because of the money you spend and what you're doing. So we are expanding. I'm sitting in this building here. We have most of this building. This building across the street, we are going to lease, but this building we have. This is 19,000 square feet, and this is where we're going to put our post-production studios and anything else we need to help us finish production of our projects. Because like I said, nothing leaves my door. We don't outsource and we don't insource either. If it cannot be made here, it can't be made. So this is what the building looks like across the street. The inside of it, after we're done making it and building it, this is what it is. This is what it will be. Those are the 3 post-production studios. We need probably 4 because of the amount of projects we're making. We're also making something called a performance capture volume. So if any of you have watched Mandalorian and you've talked about the Unreal Engine LED light screen or volumetric capture and virtual production, this is what it is. We know how to do it because the company that makes it has invested in us. Epic Games gave us a grant, the Unreal Engine, and they want us to build one, so we're going to build one. So at the end of the day, the two ideas behind the operating company and the production facility makes us these 2 companies, and these are the 2 companies we're chasing. Tyler Perry Studios, because it's independent, it is mine, I own it, nobody else can exploit it, going as many ways as we can with the Kulipari IP and Benny Blueprints. But from a technology standpoint and from a future production services, Industrial Light and Magic, Lucasfilms, VFX company. Again, we know what they're doing, we know how to do it. But the difference is, as valuable as that company is, they're Titanic. They turn the boat really slow. We just ordered 10 computers today, the new Macs that came out yesterday. We're ordering 10 of them, but we have to do that to stay ahead of them. They are not going to order 50 of those computers. We're going to order 10. Financials, if you're interested, but here's the summary. The $12 million in 2 tranches of 8 and 4 is based on a current evaluation of $21.5 million. Post phase 1 would be $30 million. Phase 2 will be raised at a later date at a higher valuation, likely this summer in the fall, after we've gotten the production of our projects, and now we can go worry about the performance capture volume and Outlook Studios across the street. Historical Kulipari Outlook revenue is just short of $7 million, most of that being a Netflix deliverable, payments for season 1 and 2. Full financials and projections available to those who are interested. Our current investors are a family office, 2 OZ funds, the state of Maryland invested, grants from the Epic Games and the city of Baltimore. We are projecting revenue of $13 million this year with our VR game and our 2D movie, $66 million in 2022 with our 3D movie, and then on and on and on. I'm not going to go through this, but whoever wants it, I'll be able to send it. But these are the projects. These are the projects over the next 3 years. A lot of them are season 1 and season 2. So it's not as much as you think, because once you build the assets, once you build the 3D assets, we have them, we can re-exploit them. Our 3-year, again, 2021, total revenues there, 2022, total revenues there, 2023, total revenues there. And these numbers are not pie in the sky. These are what these kind of projects do. And really, to be honest, these are not that high. You know, they're not unattainable. They're very attainable in the sense that we are looking at our 3D feature film as being a $50 million piece of business. It should be, I believe it will be a lot more than that, but I think the bottom of it is a $50 million piece of business. That's why our projections look the way they do. So that leads me to what we're going to do later on. So future biz units, we have to do this. We're doing a real-time rendering software solution that I can't really talk about. We are starting a school with Morgan State University and the state of Maryland. And at some point, we're going to have to start our own TV network on Next Gen TV because of the importance of how much content and owning the content. What do you do with it? You keep distributing it and keep collecting licenses, or do you try to find a way to have the company lean into advertising? Those three things are real. The last bit of it is our Opportunity Zone Fund, which is related to the company, right? So the Opportunity Zone Fund, again, just like the company, offers investors 3 ways to work their capital in targeted communities: temporary deferral of your taxes, reduction, exemption. The reason why we're doing this is because the Disneys of the world have all those different buckets of tentacles, right? Hotel, hospitality, food, sports. That licensing becomes very important. So that's something that we're going to do, obviously, but imagine if we invested in the places that actually took our licenses. Imagine if we owned a piece of if our sister company owned a piece of the hotel where we're going to put Kalupari signage, or own some of the food company, or the pot with the chips or the cookies that we're going to put Kalupari on their packaging. That idea came to me because our 3 sectors for our Opportunity Zone Fund, one being our Outlook vertical. So these are companies and places, and I've already identified them, a couple of them, that have direct impact on Kalupari and the Outlook company. The second one is lifestyle. The last one is sports and recreation. And we can find a way to take our IP and plug them into all those places. So that's why we find it most important. We're raising $15 million for the fund. So some examples. So sector 1, Outlook vertical, tied to the company. Media, entertainment, content. There's a toy company in LA called Pandemonium Toys that I would like to invest in because I would like to eventually own that company. They are very good at what they do. They are based in the Opportunity Zone. They're moving to one, and they want to work on Kalupari. So the whole thing is, we give them this character, Bernu, and make toys out of it. As the company starts to grow, we then acquire the company. This company here, Grammar Media, is a weird idea. They're trying to do something really bizarre about building studios, and I don't really care about any of that. I do care about this, the story incubator. This idea is pretty good in a sense that they will find as many stories and curate as much of that stuff as possible, bring it to us first. The ones we like, we keep and try to make. The ones that we don't, they go sell somewhere else. So we have a way of exploiting both sides of their business if we're able to invest. The second sector is lifestyle. As a dad who has been to countless small towns for soccer tournaments and all those kind of things, I know how important this place is. Somerset, Ohio, there's a small hotel called Hotel Swisher that is a boutique hotel in a small town. They're looking for $500K to finish the project. We believe that that's a great idea because, again, hospitality, we can put Kalupari signage as part of the hotel. There's a Kalupari room. We only need one. We don't need a million of them. We need one, right? So both sides of that business works for us as far as Kalupari and the Opportunity Zone Fund. This one I can't talk about too much. This food snacking disruption company, the Rocky Mountain region, that is going to change the world, I believe. But that's a secret project I can't really say much about. But that's the lifestyle section. So those two things we really like. The last one is sports and media, sports and multi-use facility, athlete. So I know what this stuff looks like again, and the father of athletes. A 90,000 square foot facility, variety of indoor sports and community programming. That is really important because, again, Kalupari and our IPs, they bring kids in, and where kids are is where we need to be. So when kids are going to soccer tournaments, we need to be in Ohio. When kids are going to this place, we need to be there as well. So that's why that investment, I think, is a very good investment. Local 90,000 square foot facility. This one, Connect Outdoors, I think is pretty good too because it's a technology platform for outdoor recreation industry. And at the end of the day, this is a talking, walking lizard. So there is some synergies there. So that's why we're starting to fund, because what we don't want to do is as a company own a bunch of things as Outlook that aren't needed for someone to acquire us later on down the road when we will become a problem for all of these people, for all these media companies. We are going to become something that they need to handle. I am not scared of them, and they are not scared of me yet. Target returns. This is opportunity zone stuff. I'm sure most of you have talked about that stuff, but it is, the same. The investments are over 7 to 10 years, and we're raising the capital 300K at a time for the fund. And there you go, guys. Creativity takes courage, and we have as much courage as needed. We are pretty excited about it. I try to go through this as fast and as kind of overview as possible, but there's a more comprehensive version of this. I will send anybody a deck who's interested, and that is my company.
Trevor, thank you so very much on that high-level presentation. Let's jump into Q&A, my friends. Again, using your questions chat option over to the right side of your screen to send over those questions so we can acknowledge all of them. I'm going to get started, Trevor, if that's okay. And of course, this is probably a question that everyone wants to know. How did you go from NFL superstar to producing kids content?
Yeah, well, that's an easy one. So I started a record company a long time ago. I've always been in creative industry, and every off season, I teach myself how to do something. So one year, I taught myself how to write for the New York Times. One year, I taught myself how to make music and how to run a record company. One of our songs wound up in a Fox movie, and I never been to a studio lot, and this was in 2008. So I went to the studio a lot because they asked me to come sign the paperwork. They want to do some press around me playing football and that kind of thing. And I walked on the Fox movie lot, and I was like, I'm done making music. I'm doing whatever this is. Lo and behold, I was very good at it. I was very good at storytelling. I had to teach myself how to write scripts. I had to teach myself how to create. And Kalupari was an accident. Was a happy accident. I was watching Planet Earth, of all things, and they had a slow motion shot of a tree frog jumping from one tree to the next. And it looked like a superhero. And I was like, frogs, because we've done turtles, we've done dragons, not done frogs yet. So that's kind of how I got here, and that's how I was steamrolled. And I wound up with an agent, and I wound up spending a lot of time in Hollywood. And then I got to the point where I had to make a decision. Do I go to Hollywood and swim upstream, or do I stay here and swim downstream? I stayed here, and now I'm swimming downstream.
Awesome, thank you. Now, Trevor, tell us a little bit about the exit strategy for this business.
Right. So the way I look at it is the Universals, Sonys of the world, the companies that don't own boys IP. And when I say boys IP, I mean DC and Marvel, basically. So you discount Time Warner and Disney, but Universal and Sony are not in that business. There's also a lot of other companies that want to get into this business. Technology companies. Epic Games wants to get into this business. So we are looking at an exit probably 4 years from now. I have an idea who is going to be, I have an idea when it's going to be, and I have an idea how much. But there is an exit strategy, acquisition strategy, not so much exit, but acquisition strategy for the company, because we are building something independently without their help. The thing we are going to use them for at this point, like Viacom, for instance, is distribution. We don't have a distribution network, and that's the one thing we will never have. But once you get into that business, you kind of can't get out. Right. So we will make the content, we'll own the content, we'll exploit it, but we'll pay the 25% distribution fee to whoever. And I don't really care who it is, as long as you can get my movies in the theaters and my shows on the TV. And like I said, there is an appetite for this stuff that is insatiable around the world.
And Trevor, tell us a little bit about the plan for the content after these 4 projects are finished.
So the way we're looking at it is we're raising money for these 4, and these 4 should lead into the next 4. There are season 2s of 2 of those things. There's new shows after that, but it has to be kind of the way most of these companies work. One has to fund the other, right? So after we make our movie, and that's our movie comes out next August, we'll be done with this movie, or the Spider Woman you're looking at, Queen Jarrah. We'll be done making that next May. So we'll put it out next August in theaters, and as we start collecting box office is when we'll start our second project. There's a second version of the movie. It is based on the book trilogy. So Army of Frogs, Rainbow Serpent, Amphibians End. One has to pay for the other, right? So now we're building a library, building content. We still own the 23 episodes that are on Netflix. I own those episodes of TV. And they are made and they are dubbed in every language spoken on planet Earth, because Netflix makes you do that. But that's property of mine. So we are building a library. So the plan is to build as much library as possible through the Kalapari IP, but then through other things that we think have legs, right? Have exploitable legs. Benny Blueprints has legs. The Revisionist, which is my Marvel universe, has real legs. Foster Broussard has real legs. We are no longer in the development business. Development business is a bunch of people sitting around arguing about who's going to do what next. We're not in that business. We have to make things. You're not a media company unless you make things. So that's the idea. Is once we start bringing in revenue from our VR game, which will be first, that'll be finished first. We start greenlighting things based on that.
So Trevor, when you sign a contract with, say, Disney or Netflix, do they give you a time frame where you have to, be ready to go or to make the movie? What does that on average look like?
So it's probably between 12 and 14 months. For us, it's 12 to 14 months because we motion capture. If you are looking at Avengers, right? Avengers Endgame was the biggest movie ever made. That movie took 2.5 years to make, but that is set up front. So our pipeline and the way we make things is about 12 to 14 months, and everybody is turned on by that. Because it's one thing if you buy a project from me, then I go, hey, I will talk to you in 2024. Nobody wants that problem. You buy a project from me, or you want to distribute one of my projects. No, you'll have it in 14 months, no matter what it is. If it's the preschool show, it's 14 months. If it's the 2D movie, it's 14 months. And 6 of those months have passed. That's the thing. We're in production in these things. We're not raising money because we want to start them. We're raising money because we need to finish them. They've already been started. We've been working on those 4 projects that we're raising money for about 6 months. We've been in this building that I'm currently sitting in for 8 months. So we have 50 computers, right? So everything is underway. It is as real as can be.
Great. And was the Netflix show canceled, or is it still on air?
It's still on. Yeah, it's still there. Yeah, you can go to Netflix right now. So type in Kalapari Army of Frogs. The thing about Netflix, and I'm not supposed to know any of this, but I do because they told me. The thing about Netflix is my contract was two seasons. It ran out after the 2 seasons. Number one, they didn't want to negotiate it because my terms were so favorable. And this was before the Netflix explosion. I'm sorry. So
before the pandemic.
Yeah, before that, but also before they became the force they were. And it was like House of Cards, and then us. It was like something like that. We were part of that first wave. So the contracts looked a lot different then than they do now. The second thing is Netflix is not very good at boys action. If you take a look at everything Netflix puts out, the things they spend money on, very little of it is animated boys action. Even though Kalapari is a very 50-50 universe, we're making a female-led story where she becomes my universe's Darth Vader. She's called Warflower, but they're not very good at it. So they're trying to figure out themselves where they go. How do they fight the Disneys of the world, and how do they fight Marvel and DC? And as we saw today, their season 1, their quarter 1 subscription is slow to a crawl because of Disney and HBO. So the playing field is even because now you're starting to see customers and consumers don't care where they get it from. They care what they're watching. So my job is to fight with quality, not quantity. And I can fight that fight.
Right, good. Okay, what are the typical economics of a distribution deal for a company-owned IP?
Yeah, so if we take our movie, we finish our movie, we take it to Paramount, it's around 20% of distribution, and they get paid first, right? So if you think about, we could try to sell the movie, but we're not doing that. We're owning the IP. So if we get the 80% distribution, 80% fees from around the world, that's how these companies wind up being worth so much money. It's about 20% across the board. It's 20% in TV. It's about 20% in films. Some people like negotiating the fee. I don't care about the fee. As long as you get my movie to China, I don't care what the fee is. just get it into
Right.
China because I own the IP and I'm exploiting an IP around the world. So that's the difference. The difference is not what the beginning result is, what the end result is, to me at least. So it's about 20% on the gross. The movie makes $100 million around the world. Paramount or whoever distributes it gets their 20%, and then the movie theater gets their 50%.
Got it.
But that happens around the country and around the world in every territory. So you
Gotcha.
multiply that number gets really big, really, really fast.
Right. Now, let's talk about the money part too a little bit. So if you could clarify for us, someone's asking if there's two raises here, one for your company and one for the Oz Fund. And can you remind us the totals of pre-money value on those?
Yeah, so yeah, there is two different raises, right? So our company is not worth enough to raise that much money. So the pre-money evaluation right now for the company, for the operating company outlook, is $21.5 million. That is based on a Netflix receivable. That is based on the growth of the company. It's also based on the money we've brought in over the last couple of years. The OZ fund is not worth it. It's a PPM right now. There's no money in there. It's an idea that we kicked around for a long time. So we are raising it from scratch. We are starting it from scratch. But the pre-money evaluation in Outlook, these are two separate companies that share an ecosystem. Right? Two different companies share an ecosystem. The pre-money evaluation for the Outlook company is $21.5 million.
Fantastic. Now, Trevor, are your costs low for these kinds of movies and content that you're making? And where are you finding your talent here?
Yeah, so our cost is $120. So the reason it's $120 is because of technology needed. So one of the problems that Hollywood has in making these kind of movies is the way they've made them is the way they're always going to make them. So in 2001, when Toy Story and those movies came out, and CG became a thing, Disney and Sony and Fox, they all invested in these gigantic buildings with these gigantic teams. I can tell you right now, 200 people worked on Spider-Verse. Into Spider-Verse was great, but between 200 and 400 people worked on it. I can tell you right now, you can make that movie with 25 people. But once you've established those kind of numbers, and you are used to spending $100 million on a movie, it's very hard for someone like me to come in and say, no, we're going to spend 4 to 8, and they go, no, you're not. But then you go, yes, we are, and then we prove it, right? So our cost is low because of the tech. Basically, the computers do half the work, right? And then the other half of the people that do the work, they're paid a very different wage than they're paid in LA, because again, we're in Baltimore, and the skill set might not be as high, the mindset is higher, right? So the thing we have decided is, and the thing we lean on is mindset is more important than skill set, because we can teach you the rest.
Right.
And so we're starting to teach young people in this part of the country, which is turning into professional people. We're getting poached. I'll give you an idea. Under Armour hired one of my employees from under my nose. Another VFX company hired one of my employees from under my nose. Disney's talking to one of my employees. So that means we scare them, and we know what we're doing, and we have something that they're going, oh, there's real talent there. So we're getting the talent locally, but we are teaching them and putting them in the IP that they can go, oh, we get it.
Perfect. All right, next question here. Investing in IP before distribution may potentially be risky. How do you de-risk the distribution marketing risk?
You finish it. That is the idea. It is, the thing I try to tell people is we are no different than a car company per se, or even a lawnmower company. We're not as valuable with plans. Nobody's valuable with plans, especially in this business. And once you finish something, the old adage in Hollywood is, if you make a movie, it's a modern miracle. If you have something delivered and you finish it, it's a modern miracle. My IP has been seen around the world, so that's part of de-risking it. I have the data. I have the data that we sold 7,000 pieces of Under Armour clothing that looked like that had Kalupari insignias on. We only printed 7,000. Under Armour only printed 7,000 before they almost went out of business. We sold 30,000 pieces of Mattel toys, Kalupari toys on Amazon. There was only 30,000 printed. Our show, season 2, was the 13th most watched thing on Netflix the weekend it came out. I'll tell you a story. We handed, my partners and I, we made the second season of Kalupari. We handed it in August. Netflix held it till Thanksgiving. So they knew something we didn't know, because you don't put something out Thanksgiving, then you think people are going to watch. They put it out Thanksgiving weekend, and the entire world watched it, or at least whatever the mechanism for watching, for counting a view on Netflix, they all watched it, right? And even to this day, if you go to Facebook and just type in Kalupari, you will see a bunch of kids that I don't know wearing Kalupari t-shirts, and you'll see a bunch of people that I don't know really loving. They love the show. So therefore, we are rebooting it from the Netflix thing. We are getting rid of our Netflix affiliation. We don't need it. So we are de-risking it as much as we can by saying, no, the books came out, the T-shirts came out, the toys came out, the show came out, the movie's gonna come out. We are doing the same thing you would do if you had Captain America. So that's how we're de-risking it as best as we can, and also making our content for a price. Now, it'd be one thing if we said, hey, we need $50 million to make a Kalupari movie. No, you don't. You need 4. You need 5. That's what this stuff is going to start costing in the future, and people are terrified. And we are about to prove it. And I'm telling you, when we put our movie out, people will be shocked.
I'm really excited to share all this with my almost 5-year-old son, to be honest with you.
He'll love it. Don't share the live action one. It will scare him to death.
Okay, I will. Okay, let's talk a little bit about your employees, Trevor. So you have 50 full-time employees now, right? So how many are you going to need for the 4 projects? And are you planning to expand the management team and creating a board at some point?
So we are creating a board because at this point, when we start raising money, this kind of money, and what the company's going to start making in revenue, it can't just be me floating around doing what I'm doing, right? We need management, we need oversight and insight in that respect. Right now we have 50 employees, 35 are full-time, 15 part-time because they're still in school. To finish these 4 projects, and the thing is, these projects are not full-time employees. They come in, they do their part of the pipeline, and then they leave. So at some point we'll be at 200 employees, but it does flutter up and down, and it doesn't go up and down based on who we can hire. It goes up and down on who we need, a pipeline. Now, as you think of a car, once you've made the seats, the guy that makes the seats has nothing to do, so he has to leave, right? So that's the way, that's kind of the way this thing works. It is a pipeline. It is an assembly line, no different than making a F-150. It is the exact same. You can't make the sky look real until you have the ground. So you just move on this way, and we are moving on that way. Right now, we're going to have 50 people, so we're moving kind of slow, but we're able to raise this fund, this $8 million at first for the content. That will pick up pace very, very quickly.
Great, Trevor. And let's talk a little bit about this pandemic that we've all been in. Can you tell us a little bit about what COVID has done for your business?
Funny enough, I think COVID expanded our business because we didn't have enough funding to really get to that next level. We were at a level before this. We were parked in an art school. We were parked at MICA. Our office was at MICA. We had 10 employees. And what the pandemic did, it gave me a chance to stop and say, okay, really, what am I doing? Should I just pack up my stuff and head to Hollywood? Which I was asked to come. Now, I was asked to come by Disney. I was asked to come by Nickelodeon. Hey, are you moving here and that kind of thing? And I was like, no, I think we're gonna stick it out here. And if you want to work with us, you have to buy us, rather than I'm not signing a first look deal and those kind of things. So what COVID did, it had me reconfigure the business and kind of say, okay, where's the opportunity? The opportunity happened when all the companies fell down. When Disney fell down and all of a sudden there was nothing for them to do and they couldn't shoot, we shoot movies in a computer. So I was like, it's time to double and triple down. So now when Shazam comes out next year and Batman and all these movies, we will play in that sandbox, no question. We are going to play in that sandbox, and we are unafraid. So that's what COVID did. I think COVID leveled the playing field content-wise if you're good at it. we're good at it.
Right. Now, Trevor, that seems to be all the questions that we have that came through so far. Is there anything else that you would like to say or add before we say our goodbyes?
No, I think there's an opportunity here that with my company and with the OZ Fund, we are OZ based company, number one. But the technical business and the OZ Fund finds a way to connect content with lifestyle and with sports and with other companies, and exploiting that relationship is really interesting to me, and this is why we've done it. But as far as the Kalahari IP and as far as the things we're hoping to do, this is a kind of company that people look back at and say, oh, this is how you can do it. Tyler Perry has started it, and I'm going to finish it.
Amazing, Trevor. Thank you so very much for joining us today. To all of our attendees, my name is Lindsay with Family Office Networks. I'm going to be following up with everyone individually, so if there's any questions or if you would like to get in direct contact with Mr. Pryce, I would be more than happy to make the introduction. Thank you so much and have a great day. Bye, Trevor.
Bye, guys.